All right, here's the question, right? Why does Hollywood hate America? The upcoming Superman film faces some early turbulence after director James Gunn compared the superhero film to an immigrant story. Yeah, he went there, right? Referencing the character's displacement from his home planet to Kansas. Now, this prompted others to label the film Superwoke. And maybe Tinseltown should have been renamed Hollywouldn't. All right? In the new Superman movie, Superman's iconic motto of truth, justice, and the American way, remember that? Well, it's now truth, justice, and the human way. Yet another whitewash rewrite of an American classic. Now, in an era where DEI is on the wane and meritocracy is back in vogue, why limit your audience and your revenues by making super woke instead of Superman? Maybe it should just be called Super Them. All right, my next guest will have something to say about this. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Luke Lloyd, coming to us from Covington, Kentucky. Super Them. I mean, they fall over themselves to hurt themselves before they even get into the theaters, and ultimately, I think it just hurts everybody involved because they're not going to make the money they want.
Well, let's talk about what the American way means. Also, what does the human way mean? I think they're really getting this kind of mixed up because when I think of the American way, I think of a land of opportunity. I think of a land that you can bootstrap anything and build anything and also make some riches along the way to help your family out and frankly, help other people out. I mean, the rich and wealthy are actually the most giving out of any person because they can, number one, but number two, they feel philanthropic because they appreciate the system. So the American way is actually truly what people perceive to be the human way. What is the human way? If you actually want to go look at biologically how humans are supposed to be, the animal nature of humans, it's not good. The animal in us is never a good thing. Usually causes a lot of problems in society. So they're actually going and shooting themselves in the foot by saying that because the human way is actually the more disgusting way.
But yeah, here we are, and there was some flack, and they've tried to defend it. But at the end of the day, it just seems as though that when they do these things, the rewrite is always taking a shot at the status quo or all the basic tenets of how I grew up in my America as a kid.
Well, it's hypocritical is really what it is. I mean, you have Hollywood, usually the most rich and famous people out there that are trying to be this woke version. And the reason they're doing this is because they know it will gain their following because we live in a society where people want to fit in. So we can talk about the younger generations, obviously, the Gen Zs, the millennials, a world where we grew up with technology. We are so connected to the point that we're not connected anymore. We don't have like in-person social interaction. So when people are flooded with a bunch of information that they don't truly understand, they get behind a movement because they feel a part of something. There's no organization. There's no, people don't appreciate the personal and small relationships that they have in person because there's thousands, if not millions of people they can reach on these social platforms. So people care more about the actual social platforms more than they do about the people, even their families that they have in person because the world is kind of their oyster. So the world is no longer that big anymore. So my point is with that is the Hollywood just running with the fact that people want to be part of a movement. They don't care what kind of movement that is, and it's getting them in trouble. And frankly, the whole saying, go woke, go broke, a lot of people are going to get themselves in trouble because the normal people are fed up with it.
Yeah, you make some great points there. And so I want to highlight one of them is that all these social media outlets. I sound like I drone on about social media. Now I use social media obviously for this show and for the likes, but I don't identify through it like I think a lot of people do nowadays. But, with all the places for the likes and the friends and all of the stuff that goes into the social media, I feel like it's a pretty lonely world. And if you take a look at loneliness statistics, Luke, loneliness is at an all-time high. I mean, you have 5,000 friends and you're in the loneliest you've ever been. What does that say about culture?
What does it say about the human brain and how we're wired and how we work? The fact that we don't spend as much time with our parents or family anymore, the fact that maybe younger generations aren't getting married and finding their significant other, it's because the grass is always greener in their mind. They think there's this world that they can create through this virtual world, whether it's social media, the future of the metaverse, you can talk, whatever you want to bring into it. They think the grass is always greener and they don't appreciate what they currently have and how amazing their life really is. It's almost the loneliness, the depression, the mental health, the mental illness that exists in today's culture is all fueled, frankly, by the world being so small and frankly thinking that, their lives aren't perfect because they're comparing themselves to everybody else. They're comparing themselves to the Hollywood actors. So when the Hollywood actors are saying this stuff, what people think is that they can get behind this movement and become them. They're seeing them in their yachts, their nice cars, the big houses. They're like, okay, if I support these people and agree with everything these people say, well, then I can be just like them. But then they find out that just because you follow a movement or because you think a certain way that like another person doesn't mean that you actually become them.
Yeah, well, and ultimately that's the hard lesson they learn, and they end up being unhappy. And I was at a dinner party, and a gentleman leaned into his daughter, who was not being very nice at the time, and said, "What's your problem?" And she says, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, you're grumpy here, but I just want to remind you from his point of view." He said, "Everybody that you love in this world is sitting at this table right now."
Yeah,
I mean, that's
exactly right. I mean, no one eats at the table anymore, though. So how can you say that anymore? Because if you're eating at the dinner table, or if you're taught in society too to go to college and then leave your hometown. I mean, I'm a culprit of that too. I went to a small college about an hour and a half away from where I grew up. But next thing you know, I moved to New York City for an internship. Then I moved to Cleveland. Now I'm down here in Kentucky. Now I'm 4 hours away from where I grew up and my family. So that's a part of it too. Is if you look at other societies around the world, and frankly, the happiest cultures, the grandparents, parents, and kids all live together. It's almost a cycle of life because you're always around your family, and family, frankly, is the most important thing and makes you the most happy.
Yeah, great stuff. Couldn't have said it better myself. Love having you on, Luke. Thank you very much. Luke Lloyd, coming just from Covington, Kentucky, the Lloyd Financial Group.